Hello, everybody. Thank you for listening to the Healthy Project podcast. I'm your host, Corey Dion Lewis. I have another great guest in the building today. I've been really just excited to get to know this person. The energy is just off the charts, and you can really tell that you are really about this life when it comes to health equity. I have Maria Torres with me today. Maria, thank you so much for agreeing to be on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me. I think, when we met, I have told you, I don't know what it is. It's your energy. I feel like we're on the same tribe. So whatever you're selling and I'm buying, and I have seen this and it's amazing.
Also, I really appreciate that. And you're right. Like it's been clicking. That's been cool to be a part of the tribe. Yes. But before we get into our conversation, Maria, can you tell the people a little bit more about yourself, what you do, and what gets you up in the morning?
Of course. So I am the health equity coordinator for Pottawatomie County Public Health, and we are close to Omaha. So we're in that metro area. Sometimes people don't know where Council Bluffs is. And as soon as I say where, before you cross the river to Omaha, they're like, oh, I know exactly where it is. Let's see. Right now, what gets me up is my community. I feel like we need people like us out there, just
That's
making
real.
sure that we are pushing, and we're not pushing the envelope, but being different than everyone else. Because I feel like we have gone to that line where we're all the same and we're trying to just stay stagnant. And we need people like us that are like, wait, what is going on here? Can you explain this to me? Because I don't understand. And trying to put that over to our community.
Yeah, 100%. And I think to your point, we need people who are not afraid to ask the questions everybody wants to ask. There's that one person that says what everybody else is thinking, but no one wants to say it. And it almost in a way that's kind of, what I feel like you're doing in your county and what others are doing across the state and across the country, specifically within public health and health equity, that we need to be having that conversation and to be asking those questions, or to be doing the initiatives or creating the projects that no one else is doing. So I think that's so cool. Maria, what inspired you with this focus in health equity? Like, what was it that was like, you know what? I want to be that person that is different. What inspired you?
I think, since I was growing up, and I came from El Salvador when I was 10 years old. So I am an immigrant. I have my story. I have my trauma. And growing up, I feel like I always wanted that adult, just to tell me that things were going to be okay. When things around you were going on chaos. I feel like that's what it was for me. And believe it or not, like I started completely different before I started my job with public health. I was studying to be an aircraft mechanic. So
that's a big change.
So going from that to this, but I always had that passion of, I want to help people. I want to be more. And I think that when it comes to us, and that passion is, I want more. I don't know what it is. And, when COVID-19 happened, I think God just decided this is time for you to go exactly where you belong. And I was helping my community with the language barrier. So I knew it then. I'm like, wait, like what is this? And I felt really happy. And although my emotions were going up and down because of everything what was going on,
right.
At the same time, I felt that sense of I'm helping, like I'm actually helping. And it wasn't just my community. It was just everyone who, had questions. They were worried. What's going to happen? What's going on? And maybe I didn't have all of the answers, but just being that sound voice of like, hey, I'm worried too. Let's be worried together, but let's see how can we make this better? Because right now everything is just in that sense of, well, I'm not sure what's going to happen, and we're on the same boat. Like, let's write this out and see
Right.
where we're going, and let's do it together.
Right. So you go from aircraft mechanic to finding your purpose. What that's the way I see it, is just finding your purpose. What it sounded like, you, from what you told me or what you just said, was like, oh, I'm where I'm supposed to be. I'm helping my people. This is what I'm supposed to do. Walk me through, because now I'm curious. Walk me through. You have this aircraft in front of you.
Yeah.
And from that to public health, was it a hard transition, or was it smooth because you knew this was where you needed to be? Like, how was that transition?
So, at the beginning, I think that we, as human beings, we get so caught up in you need to make sure that you're in a job, that you're making money. And at that time, I was
Mhm.
working at the airport. So for me, I kept hearing all of the aircraft mechanics come in and say, like, oh my God, you're going to make double time, triple the time with PTO. Like, you're going to make so much money. And, my son was a newborn at the time. So all I kept thinking is, I want him to have a better life than I did back home. I don't want him to worry about anything. I want him to,
Right.
go through high school, college, university, whatever he wants. I want to make sure that I'm providing that. So I think I got caught up on that, and obviously of the voices around me.
Oh yeah.
But I always had this thing of, I want to help people. How do I do it? And it was always with well, I'm going to donate whatever clothes I'm not using. I was donating all of that, and I was trying to donate my time with whatever I could.
Right.
I even had, this is insane to me, but now it makes me laugh because I'm like, you're right. I had two, like, one was a supervisor and one was a manager, where they both just told me that I was too nice. Like, I had too much of a big heart. That people were not nice, and the people were going to step all over me if they could. But now, as I'm growing and I'm in this position, I'm like, there was a reason why. It is true,
Right.
because I care and I want people to have better. I want my community to have better. I want everyone around me to have better, because we should be allowed to dream more than just what we have, and to have the support. And now I'm like, it just became a dream come true. I applied for a completely different job before my the health equity coordinator came up, and I knew at the moment that my administrator mentioned, like, hey, we have the perfect job for you. We think that this is the one, because you are very community based. You just have that. And when she started talking to me about, like, we have never had a health equity coordinator here before, but it just fits you perfectly. And when she started going through the
Mhm.
description, I'm like, oh my God, that means, like,
Yeah, this is me.
yes, I'm like, I'm going to be with my people. And it was very exciting when those doors open. And, the transition of that, it was so easy, because I went
Right.
from, yes, I was passionate about what I was doing. It was an easy job. I didn't have to deal with people. But then knowing, that I was actually making a difference, and I'm like, this is exactly what I'm meant to be, because this is what I always wanted. When I was growing up, I didn't have that. Now I want people to see signs in Spanish, signs in other languages, because we deserve to have the same information that everyone else does. So in a way, I'm like, oh, I'm going to do this for my people, and Spanish needs to be everywhere in Pottawatomie County. And now going out into the community and having those hard conversations is, I'm not the only one going through it. My community is not the only one going through it. We are all going through it. So how do I, model that in a way where we come together, we work together, and to me has been like finding my people, like, okay, how are we going to do this, guys? because we need to do something, and it has to be different than what we have been working with. We cannot keep ignoring the issues. We have to actually address them and not go back and say we're going to fix it. We're going to fix what, we broke over there. No, we have to fix the now. How do we move forward, make it better for people, and I forgot the word, but there's something in Japanese where when something breaks, they and it's broken, they go over with gold and they fix it with gold, and it just becomes something new, and it's stronger. And I wish I could remember what that was called, but it was beautiful. And the way that they were explaining it, I'm like, that's what we need, because we need to acknowledge the fact that the system is broken, and how do we make it better for people and something more beautiful, something brand new.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm at
No, I love the analogy, because I think when we think about a broken system, in my mind, it's almost like we're trying to take the pieces and put them back together. But what you're saying is like the system is broken. How can we make something beautiful and new with, this is what we have. Like, this is what we have. How can we make something beautiful and new with what we have and fix it that way? Because I just think when it comes to our system, and there are so many different ways this conversation can go, right? Like there's a lot of brokenness and fixing to do.
Oh yeah.
And I think that can be overwhelming, and I think that can be it can be difficult. Like, it's a difficult journey, but also I think we need to switch that mindset around. Okay, one, do we want to fix something that we know is broken, and when we fix it, is it going to go back to the same way? You know what I mean? Like, or do we look at it from a different lens, in a different perspective, and make something totally different and beautiful from what we're seeing? And I think with those doing public health and health equity work, that is, I want to say that's what a lot of people are thinking about is, what else can we do? Because obviously trying to fix this isn't working for us.
It's not. And and we can go back historically. How has, especially not working together, working separately, how has that helped at all? It hasn't.
Right.
I feel like when we actually come together and I think that's in my dream, right? Like I'm a huge dreamer. I see the dream and I'm like, that would be so beautiful. But it will take all of us to actually come together and say, we're not a one size fit all. And that has been one of my main things lately. Like, we're not a one size fit all. So how do we bring people together to the table, not just bring them together, but actually giving them that voice and having someone that listens and is like, okay, obviously none of what we have been doing has worked. So how do we change that? How do we bring different perspectives and go a different route? Because I think that that's what we need. We need different perspectives, different people to just come to the table and say, well, I know that this is not working with my community. How do we make it better? Because I know all of our communities are different too. I know that Council Bluffs is way different than Des Moines. So, how do we fit it? Because that's another thing too. It's just, and that's I think that's where I'm like, we need to do something together as a whole. Let's stop ignoring the issues and actually talk them out in a safe space where we're all like,
very important, safe space. And this kind of brings up my next question, Maria. When we spoke before, as we were preparing to record the podcast, you spoke a lot about belonging and how belonging was important to you. And I'm just curious, one, how would you define belonging, and why is it, and two, and why is it important for community and public health?
So belonging. Oh, I love that word. I think it started, with seeing it everywhere. And I started hearing everything on like Zooms and webinars, and we were all talking how, no matter what, we all want to belong. I can say, I don't like people, I hate people, stay away from me. But at the end of the day, we all want to belong. There's always somewhere where we fit in really well. And the reason why I think it's important is because we, after COVID-19 and, we had such a huge change when it came to mental health. We kind of forgot each other. We kind of forgot to care. We forgot kindness. And I think that once we start having those conversations of, I'm going through the same thing that you're going through, just in a different way, we start coming together. At least that's what I have noticed, that when I tell people, like, I have been diagnosed with PTSD, I have gone through all of these things, people tend to be more open to, not just with their own diagnosis, but with what they're going through. And I'm like, we belong in the same community. So how do we make sure that we're not, I don't know. I just think that we are all going through something. Let's at least be kind and know that no matter where you're at, you belong here. Because if for someone like me, an immigrant, and I came here not knowing the language, I was 10 years old. And going into rooms where, you don't understand what's going on and you're trying to understand what's going on, it's really hard when you're always trying to keep an eye out. Like, are they going to be nice to me? Are they going to be kind? Do I belong?
Right.
Because you already feel so out of place. And I had a few, and I'm not going to lie, I did have classmates that were so kind and they were trying really hard to talk to me. And I'm like, I don't understand what you're saying. Like, and it was really cool, and it's nice that you have those people that can feel it, that have empathy, and that they show you that you belong, even though you feel completely out of place and you're like, oh my God, this does not look like my classroom. This does not look like my friends. And I
Right.
can understand on how, in perception wise, on how that was both sides. Because I'm pretty sure that that's how my classmates felt too. Like, it's a weird girl, with her hair and just the color of her
Right.
skin. And no matter what I say, she doesn't understand anything. So, growing up, that's what I wanted. I wanted to feel like I belonged. And I had kind of an identity crisis too. I feel like once I hit my 30s, it was, I went back home. I try to go back home at least every year to show my son where I'm from. So he knows my culture, my people.
Right.
But I also feel that I'm not full Salvadorian anymore. That's my home. I was born there. I grew up there.
Oh.
But then moving here, I have been here longer than I have ever been in my own country. So now my culture, everything has changed. My family's here, my son is here. So everything that we practice is completely different. And there's a lot of things that we used to practice back home that I no longer do those things. So I don't feel like I'm from over there, nor did I feel like I was from here until, someone told me, she's like, you have, and I don't remember what it's called in English, but it's something where it's like the travelers, that you always feel like you're not from anywhere, like that you don't belong.
Like a
And she's like,
nomad or something.
yes, that one. And she's like, just remember that you belong to yourself. And where are you from, and like where you're at. And I'm like, oh my God, like that really, it did hit me, and I'm like, you're right, I belong to myself. And I'm in a new world, I'm creating this new life for my son, and it's different than when I was growing up. In, back then El Salvador was a third world country. We were afraid of the gangs, and all of these things were going were going on down there. Like the reason why I came here was because of the earthquakes, and I was homeless there for a little bit.
Wow.
So just coming from that world, coming here, going back home, and I spoke Spanish differently. So they were like, you don't talk like a Salvadorian anymore. And I'm like, yeah, it could be because now I have English. Most of my friends are
Oh.
from Mexico. So it changed. It changed a lot. So people are like, you're not from here. And I'm like, I was born right there in that hospital. What do you mean? So, that's what I feel too. Like my whole belonging thing came through. Like I became so involved into belonging was for having that identity crisis. Just thinking like, but I don't even know where I belong. I know that I don't fit in a box. I know that when I'm checking, when you were checking your oh my God, what is that form called? But they ask you your name, like where you're from, like your
Yeah.
ethnicity.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I don't feel any of those things. I know that I don't fit in a box. So where am I from? And thanks to that person that told me, like, just remember you belong to yourself and where you are making your family. Like, what are you going to teach your son? And I'm like, I want to teach him that no matter what is going to be okay. That there's going to be kind people and that he's going to find his tribe, and no matter what, that he needs to let others feel like they belong where they're at. Just being just human kindness.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk. There's a lot to unpack there. I want to start from the beginning because 'cause I think it's a beautiful conversation. One, um, talking about your days when you first, came here and you couldn't speak the language, and there were some kids that were really trying to communicate with you and be nice. And one thing that I've noticed, especially now working with, we've had at the hospital, we've had a lot of refugees come in, and you would a smile goes a long way, right? Because I understand I can't communicate with you without a translator or anything like that, but I can smile at you and you know what that means. You know that I mean well. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
I'm not smiling at you and to do something aggressive.
Mhm.
And I think when we're dealing with when we have those people in our lives, even if you speak the language, whatever culture you're from, a smile is a symbol of belonging, right? Like that is definitely, that's the first thing you can do with anybody when it comes to belonging. When you were talking about your this struggle or this battle with your identity, in a way, even though I didn't come from another country, I felt all of that because there's a sense within black and brown communities sometimes where if you reach a certain level that you're not what you grew up anymore. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I'm not
100%.
saying I am this big baller that has all this going on,
Mhm.
but if you eat differently or if you talk differently or if like you don't really do some of the things that identify with that culture, you're not that culture anymore, or like, oh, you ain't one of us no more. And it's like, well, yeah, I grew up, yeah, I am. Like I still have these experiences, and yeah, it may be different now. But I know the struggle. And
Yeah.
then, with me, Maria, I try to not anymore because I'm grown and I'm like, it is what it is. But there was a time in my life where I had to be super extra just so you knew that I still identify as a strong, black man or whatever. I had to go extra, extra. And it was and at the same time you're in a professional environment, so you're also code switching at the same time and feeling like you can't be yourself, and that's also in the way kind of stripping away at my cultural identity. And so there was a kind of a balancing act right now in my life. Like I same as you, I'm like, I am who I am, and I'm no longer, you know, trying to make other people feel comfortable around me because they may be scared of me for whatever. That is your problem. I will pray for you. And and I'm also not going to try to act differently so someone can feel like, oh, he is one of us still. Like, I am who I am. But there is, when it comes to belonging, for one, there is that balancing, but also we can make it a whole lot easier by making everyone feel like they belong, and that we are one big team trying to make a better world and do the same thing.
Yeah. And I right there with you. I completely understand all of that. Because I feel, we also have to admit to the fact that even our own communities are racist. I experienced that firsthand, especially when I was younger, because I started having more friends, and all of my friends, and this is another thing too, where I'm like, I don't belong here. Because for me, when it came to my friends, I was friends with everyone. So I tried, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't see what everyone else sees with the stereotypes or anything like that. For me, it was because my grandma always told me, treat people the way that you want to be treated. Because if
Facts.
you're treating people bad, people are going to treat you bad. So how do you want to be treated? And growing up with that, I always carry that with me. I'm like, I want to be treated with kindness. I want people to see that I care. So why would I show you something different than that? So for me, that's the
Right.
way that I grew up. And seeing my own community come back to me like, oh, now you're trying to be white. Oh, now you're trying to be this. You're trying to be that. I'm like, I'm trying to find out who I am. Like, I'm on my teens. I don't even know what I want. I'm like, I'm more worried about the cartoons. Like, I remember watching
Right.
Pokemon and all of those things as I was growing up. And I'm like, I'm more worried about tonight's episode than I am worried about this.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting, when you grow up with someone that tells you, don't look at anyone's color of skin, look at their character, look at how they treat others. I think that was a huge thing for me when I was growing up. And just hearing my grandma always tell me that, because for me, I'm like, I love people, and it stemmed because of her. It was always the, care for others. How do you want to be treated? How do you want people to see you when you're walking into a room? And I'm like, God, I do. I want people to know that I care. Like, I'm not just
Mm.
here just to, steal your jobs or take any of that. Because even before I got here, for me, being in El Salvador, being in the United States was a dream. It was, I think a lot of us dream of the United States. Everyone talks about it. It's amazing. You can be free. And once you get here, you're like, wait, there's a lot more issues here than what we really
Yeah.
talk about. And I don't know. I feel like now I'm more accepting of, look, we have issues that we need to fix even within our own communities. But if we can come together, let's sit at a table, let's eat. I'm pretty sure that you're going to like my food because everyone seems to like our cultural food.
Mm-hmm.
So let's hang out.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like if you want to be angry with me after you have had a meal, then you have more issues than I do, because
Yeah.
I would.
That's so real. If you're mad full, then
Yes.
something's wrong.
Yes.
Something's more wrong. Oh my gosh. Maria, I love your energy and your thoughts around belonging, and it's very apparent that you're a dreamer. You have all these ideas to improve the health of your community. Are there is there anything you're working on, or any stories of how some of your ideas and dreams have really made an impact in your community when it comes to belonging, or whatever it is that you have seen, you thought it, you dreamt it, and then you made it happen?
So I'm working on an initiative right now. Myself and others came together and we formed a coalition that it's called Community Partners for Diversity and Inclusion. And it was about that. We're like, okay, this is going to be very community based. We want to make sure that people know that we are here, with whatever it is. We just want that safe and brave space, because when it comes to, when you hear people say that you're from Iowa, I feel like red flags or red lights start going on them, and they're like, wait, you're
Yep.
from where? And people don't know that we're actually doing really good things here. Like, we are trying to bring people together because we know that we need it. So with me, our project is called Wings Around Town. And how we're going to be doing this is we're making clay feathers, to which we're going to be taking to the homeless shelters, Catholic charities. And we're going to be seeing just anyone and everyone that we can, to where they can put on this feather. And we haven't really figured out what colors we're using yet, so don't quote me on colors. But, we want to do colors where, are you brown? Are you black? Are you from Asia? Like, do you speak other languages other than English? And just kind of color that feather. That's like those colors. Like, are you a veteran? Are you widow? Are you married? Just these things that showcase to where you'd be like, you're trying to put me in a box. But no, we're just trying to show people that we're more alike than we're not. And that's what we're trying to show. For me, is I'm not just a Hispanic Latina woman. I am a mom. I am a hardworking woman, and I'm trying to do the best that I can for my community. So how do I showcase that in a way that others can see that I'm not just, for what you want to see me for. I'm not just my color. I'm not just my language. There's actually something more there. I am a mom. I am married. I have my own family. Like, I have my own issues, and I have been diagnosed with PTSD. I am an immigrant. So I know that there's more immigrants out here. So let's all hang out. Let's talk about what it is. What's the struggle? I know that we all feel like we're out of place. So when I gave that talk to them, I'm like, it's just me trying to show you guys who I am, and just to let you guys know that I feel out of place. And I know that I'm not the only one who has felt that way. I know that I'm not the only one who hasn't felt like they don't belong. So I just want to bring people together. And, I think that just coloring a feather, it's so much better than talking about politics and seeing this beautiful thing out there. Like, look, we're more alike than we are different. It's,
Yes.
We can talk about many other things, but just, I don't know. I just feel like if we can come to a place where we don't have to worry about, the outside world, and just for one moment, like, just, okay, I belong somewhere, and it's here, and I welcome you, and I love you. That's what I
and you never know where that conversation can go,
Yes.
That's awesome. Maria, again, thank you so much for your time today. This was, as expected, a wonderful conversation. I really, really appreciated your time. For those that are listening or watching, that want to learn more about you, what you do, connect with you, where can they find you?
So I'm on LinkedIn, and oh Lord, Facebook. I mean, I can send that information. I just, sometimes I feel like social media is social media.
Yes.
So I try to stay as much as I can away from it, but I do have a cell phone number that you can call, and that's my work. It's 712-828-2064. Like, if you have any questions regarding the project and what we're doing, reach out. Like, we need help making those feathers. So we welcome everyone.
And I'll make sure I put your LinkedIn in the description of the episode, and the website to the County Public Health website in there as well, so people can reach out and connect with you. Again, Maria, thank you so much for being on the Healthy Project. I really appreciate you and what you do. And everybody, thank you for listening to the Healthy Project podcast. I'll holler at you next time.